My name is Kevin Brew, and I work for RCSI in Ireland, and I am reviewing Cisco Multicloud Defense. We have a considerable cloud environment we run most of our networking and services from, and we utilize multi-cloud defense to secure and monitor all of the above. The thing that I'd like the most about multi-cloud defense so far is that it's allowed me to look at security within our cloud environment in a new way and to rebuild it in a far more scalable fashion while giving more control to people that are actually involved in the delivery end of things, some ability to manage the networking security within that. I think there are some GUI changes that could be made and probably will be made as the product matures more. So to align it more with what Cisco security looks like, if you know what I mean, and to align it with the wider Cisco security platform. If asked by a colleague in another institution, I'd say it depends entirely on what your use case for it is. I think if you're delivering cloud networking and looking to secure it, then it's probably a 10. So I'd be very strongly behind it. For WAF functionality and delivery of websites, it's very well suited. Um, for traditional firewalling, if you're already doing that already, it can be quite difficult to re-architect everything around this product. So an example of that would be if, like us, you came from a data center style architecture within your cloud environment and we're trying to move to a more cloud fronted architecture. How do I say to put it that can be quite difficult, but once you've deployed, it gets easier, if you know what I mean. So to kind of reverse engineer everything and then do everything again can be quite tedious in some ways, but that will be specific to people depending where they're coming from with it. I come from a deployment background, so I've used most of the vendors' firewall technologies, and in the cloud, I primarily used Cisco's legacy Firepower product within the cloud. It doesn't really parallel with them in that it's not a traditional firewall appliance sitting in the cloud. It's utilization of tags and how it groups objects and things like that, separated a little bit as it's very intrinsically linked with the cloud environment itself. Like it doesn't just sit in it, like it's spans out into it in a much more logical way. And because of that, then you can, as I mentioned before, if there are security requirements that exist on one server, it's very easy to replicate these over to another server utilizing tags within the cloud environment without having to configure this new server you're spinning up within the firewall itself. It will pull it all into its inventory with no intervention from you. Our availability is increased because of how availability works within this product, whereas before, as we're running two virtual machines for firewalls, the automated end of this entire deployment, where if it sees a health issue, it will build another version itself and drain the old one and re-add the traffic into the new one. Work very cleanly with very little loss. So that's really greatly improved our availability. Then the deployment of new services will also be quicker because, as I mentioned, it being tag-based, if you already have a pre-existing tag architecture, you can just add new services into that and they will automatically be pulled into the new system. So it's more efficient in that way. In terms of commercials, I guess it's kind of similar. Like I don't think it will make a massive commercial difference to us, but in terms of the operational demo of it will. I guess from our perspective, cybersecurity is everything. Every decision we make, security comes into it. So organizationally, within IT, nothing gets done without a conversation being had around its security. Like that can be a new service being deployed, or a change of vendor, or patching of software. All this kind of stuff. We are very heavily invested in security within our department. So when it came to selecting a new firewall vendor for the cloud, it being our most critical area to protect, it was a big debate and lots of people had opinions on it, and I can say unanimously everyone agreed to go the way we went. I think it was the change in outlook. Whereas with other vendors, it looked like I was just going to replace what I had already with something similar. This was replacing what I had already with something entirely different. And I guess one of the issues with that in the initial stages of conversation was me wrapping my head around how this actually was going to work and what it was going to look like when it was fully implemented. They were very hands-on during the deployment. We did use the professional service element to deploy this, but we never felt isolated or unsure of what the next stage was or where we were going or what it was going to look like when it was complete once we began the actual implementation of it. When we went to tender for these firewalls, we asked each of the major players in the market to do a design based on what we had implemented and the information that we provided them. Three came back with pretty much an identical solution, as it was just a direct replacement of with some refinements of what I had already, with some marginal improvements. The multi-cloud defense prospect, there were some sweeping changes involved in it, let's say, but when you looked at those sweeping changes, it demonstrated that after the implementation had been done, we would be in a far superior and more manageable position than we were before. So they were the only vendor that truly gave us a new design based on our requirements, as opposed to the same design based on our requirements. We do utilize other security products. In that area, yes, I would say we do. Mostly based on SIEM platforms and things like that. No, we don't really use AI based. So okay. It's machine learning based rather than AI. We utilize AI in other aspects of networking here, but in terms of cybersecurity, I think as much as the vendors are going to start utilizing it to help them, the bad actors will also utilize it just as much, if not more, to try and thwart the impact that the vendors are trying to make in security. So I think it's going to be a battleground for quite a long time. And the hope is that everyone keeps developing at the same pace to mitigate the threats that are going to be coming from all over the world. 8. That would be a 10. We'll go 8. Solid 9. Again, that's very high. 9 to 10. 10. Not applicable. 8. And not applicable. 10. Yes. 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 Juniper Mist AI is the access end of our network, so I'll be a very heavy user of that as well.